Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and McLean podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and McLean. And it's just Gramlich today. I really wanted the opportunity to nerd out about some women's hoops. And so Max said, KG, why don't you handle it? And I said, gladly, sir. So here I am. And it has been Women's Basketball Week here on the podcast. We started on Monday. We had Coach Megan Duffy, the new head coach at Virginia Tech, and Coach Sean Poppy, the new head coach at Clemson, join us. That episode is doing great. You guys always support women's basketball content. We love it. Hokie fans, we see you. Clemson fans, come on. And then, the other great fan bases all around the ACC and when it comes to supporting women's hoops. We appreciate you guys. I wanted to spend a little time talking about Notre Dame before we have our interview today with Olivia Miles. We were so excited to talk with Olivia Miles, who was an All-American 2 years ago for Notre Dame, was the runner-up for ACC Player of the Year to Liz Kitley, who's one of the greatest players in ACC history, as we know. And she tore her ACL in the Louisville game at the end of the 2022-2023 season, which was heartbreaking. I mean, just brutal to watch for a player who was having an incredible year. She had just hit the game winner against Louisville maybe a week prior at home. They were playing Louisville again. So it was just brutal to see. I mean, you hate seeing that for any player, and especially for someone like Olivia Miles. And so we didn't get to see her in the NCAA tournament. And then we went 2 NCAA tournaments without seeing her because she was out all of last year. When you tear your ACL that late in the season, sometimes it can take an entire season away from you, which is what it did. However, she's back. And this Notre Dame team, when you add Olivia Miles back into this mix, it's just going to be absurd. I am so excited to see what Notre Dame can do. And I think that they are, I've said it before on the show, I've said it on ACC Network, I think that they are a legitimate national championship contender. Of course, you have South Carolina. You're going to have to deal with them. You have Southern Cal, who has brought in a bunch of transfers, looks great. You have UConn, who's always going to be a force. You have a bunch of other programs who we know are really good and they're going to be in the mix. But I think Notre Dame, they obviously have the pedigree, won a national championship back in 2018, played for one in 2019, and this is probably their most talented roster since 2019. I think that's without a doubt. I think pretty much everybody would agree with me on that. Let's talk about the roster for a second. And I had to write all this down because the accolades on this roster are absurd. You have Hannah Hidalgo, who was first team All-American. There are 5 players who are selected in the country as a first team All-American. She was one of those. She was a freshman sensation last year. Olivia talks about her relationship with Hannah and how they're going to play together. You're probably going to see both of them playing with the ball, but also maybe Hannah playing a bit more off ball. She's a great 3-point shooter and a great scorer. So I can't wait to see that. You have Olivia Miles, who we talked to here. She was a second team All-American a couple of years ago and one of the best players in the country. You have Sonia Citron, one of the most underrated players in the country, without a doubt. First team All-ACC. She has had different times throughout her career at Notre Dame where she's had to play without Miles and then have to take up the slack when maybe Hidalgo was in foul trouble. She's done that. She was so good in the ACC tournament this past year. Maddie Westbeld, also one of the most underrated players in the country, was the ACC Rookie of the Year as a freshman, has been All-ACC pretty much every year. I feel like she flipped a switch in the second half of the season. Again, was so good in the ACC tournament. And then they bring in 2 very interesting transfers. Coach Ivey has been working in the portal because most teams would have just said, oh, we've got those 4, we're good to go. But this is what makes me think Notre Dame is very serious here. They go bring in Leah King. Leah King was at Pittsburgh last year. She was the ACC's most improved player. She took her average from something like 9 points a game up till around 20 points per game. She is one of the best rebounders that I've seen live. I mean, she's incredible. And I think she wants to go somewhere and win. And she's a humble, kind of a no-nonsense, do your role type of player. So I think she's going to fit in well. And then you bring in Liza Carlin from Marquette, who was a first team All Big East selection, bunch of double-doubles last season. So you bring her in to add some more size and some more experience. So with just those 6 right there, that's an incredible roster to have. Not to mention they bring in Kate Koval, who was the number 5 overall recruit in this class, number 1 rated post player. They are going to ask a lot from her. I think they are. She's their biggest player at this point at 6'5". Kylie Watson, who tore her ACL in the ACC tournament, also terrible to see. I don't know her timetable. So it feels like they're going to ask a lot from Koval, and she's going to have to be ready. And then you also have a McDonald's All-American in Emma Risch, who didn't play last year, got hurt. She's a shooter. She's 6'1", gives you size. You have players like Cass Prosper and KK Bransford, who have played a lot of minutes and can give you something. So, I mean, this roster is just loaded. There's no other way to put it. And to pair two of the most dynamic guards that you could argue have ever played in the ACC on one team, it's going to be wild. I just can't wait. So I'm so excited to see what Notre Dame does. And I want to add this too about Niele Ivey, the head coach for the Fighting Irish. I don't feel like we talk about enough the job that she's done to take over for a legend, someone who I've come to know well in Coach McGraw, to take over for someone who won 2 national titles, who's in the College Basketball Hall of Fame, who has a statue outside the building. We have seen, look at all these other programs in women's hoops, in any sport, where you take over for the quote unquote GOAT and you fail. Like, it's happened at many places. Tennessee is the big example in women's basketball where that's happened. And there's countless examples in football, men's basketball, etc. So what Niele Ivey is doing there, I feel like we have to give her more credit because it's so hard. It is so hard. And she took over during COVID. So I have to imagine that was not easy. And she's handled it so well. And if anybody who's just had any interaction with Niele Ivey, you can see how humble she is and how much she loves Notre Dame and how hard she works. And she learned so much from Coach McGraw, and Coach McGraw thinks the world of her. So I just feel like I had to add that in there because it's not easy to just take over a program from the GOAT and have it right back into Sweet 16s and winning the ACC regular season and winning the ACC tournament. And now I think poised to have an incredible year. So I'm excited about Notre Dame. Cannot wait to see this team. This is a loaded ACC. We talk about it all the time. NC State's going to return a lot. Syracuse losing Deasia Fair. We'll see how they're able to rebuild. Louisville's rebuilt. I know Notre Dame fans don't necessarily love to hear that, but they've brought in a bunch of interesting pieces. You've got Florida State, who's still going to be good as always. Duke is a team to watch out for. So much young talent. UNC, Miami with a new coach. Georgia Tech, I think they're going to take a step. Clemson, new coach. Virginia, another step under Coach Mox. And then, of course, Stanford for good measure. So I'm already excited. It's like June 11th, and I can't wait for some women's hoops. But I won't keep you from Olivia Miles any longer. The All-American from Notre Dame, who's going to be back next season for the Irish, joins us right now after this message from Ingles.
It's time to discover the convenience and time savings of contact-free pickup with Ingles Curbside. Just visit shop.ingles-markets.com or download the app. And your Ingles personal shopper gets to work with specialized training on how to select the freshest items for a pre-scheduled pickup. They'll even text you with updates. You pull up to a designated space and your personal shopper delivers your items right to your vehicle. Fresh, fast, and affordable. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Olivia Miles joining us today from Notre Dame Women's Hoops, All-American, all everything, coming off a season where we know you were injured, Liv, and we're going to get into all that because we are so excited to kind of project to 2024-25 and see what Notre Dame's going to do. But I want to start here. You just graduated from Notre Dame, and I was telling Mac this, and I was like, Olivia just got there. I am so confused how you graduate. I think maybe 3.5 years. Is that what you did?
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe I feel like it was yesterday that I just got to
Yeah.
campus. I can't believe that I just walked across the stage today. I mean yesterday, sorry, but it's a rewarding feeling, going through everything that I went through here and then being able to kind of go through that accomplishment while I was on the sidelines. Like it still kind of reminded me that my purpose is bigger than basketball, and I'm still a student at the same time. So I got to accomplish something this year, which was nice.
That's amazing. I love that. And we were talking a little before we started recording, and I was asking, are we just taking classes to get by? Are we doing masters? And you said, no, man, I'm getting my master's. They're paying for it. I'm getting it done. So what are you getting your master's in, and why did you decide to pursue that?
Yeah, so a few of my other teammates have done this master's program. It's called the Master of Nonprofit Administration. I kind of wanted to do something in business. I kind of had an interest in business throughout school, but I studied political science mainly, and kept business in the background. So I'm excited to kind of tackle that head on, because I want to explore those options during, my professional career and sort of after I retire and whatnot.
Yeah, really smart, Liv. I just love that you've got that kind of, you're thinking 20 years ahead, not just a couple years. And sometimes people your age don't think that way. Okay, before we dive into some basketball, I just want to know how you're feeling physically, mentally. I know you had kind of started practicing with the squad like in March, which I thought was amazing. And also part of me was like, maybe they'll just throw her in there, hopefully. But you want to save that year. I get it. So how are you feeling on the court, off the court?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I wanted to put a jersey on every game. Like, I was like, as soon as I was getting better and better, I'm like, please, like, can I play this game? And they're like, no, just wait it out. So, I'm feeling great. Thank you for asking. I always appreciate when people ask me how I'm doing, because it's just, important. Going through stuff like this is pretty hard, and I'm grateful to say that I've kind of made it out, and I feel stronger than I was before. So, I'm feeling great. My knee is doing fantastic. Mentally, that mind physical connection's still getting there. And I'm kind of a year out, so I'm giving myself grace. I'm giving myself some time, but I'm expected to be full go and 100% by the time the season rolls around. So
That's so exciting, and I think it's it's a tough thing to deal with, and if you've never had a major injury, if the game has never been taken away from you, it's really hard to understand. But you talk about the mental side, obviously the physical side, and I'm super interested because you were put in a unique situation where you had to sit and watch and maybe learn different things. So how were you able to take advantage of this year? Not just mentally of preparing yourself and getting better and getting back, but also maybe a different look on the game because of the vantage point that you had this season.
yeah, I kind of got to connect with my coaches. We have a brilliant set of coaches, new additions as well, that I kind of just got to learn from and take a step away from, actually playing and kind of look at it from their perspective. So that was cool. And as a point guard, I think that's really important because you really just ultimately want to translate what they want on the court. So really hearing their conversations, being with them in huddles, having the stat sheet, seeing kind of what they're thinking about during games has helped me to kind of understand how I can translate that to my game. So that was really, really imperative. But also just, learning how to be a better teammate. I've always, I feel like I've always been good at supporting my teammates, but it's a different kind of support when you're like not directly out there and like not in the heat of the moment of everything. So I think I kind of learned how to calm people down in a different way, because I was taken away from it, and I kind of understand a different perspective of it. And that it's not so serious in the moment. You know what I mean? That could be taken away like that. So just be grateful and appreciate everything. So.
Yeah, that's a great perspective, Liv. And I want to get into a topic that, was maybe on Twitter a little bit throughout the season. And there were some weird rumors going on that you might leave Notre Dame or some nonsense. I never believed any of it because I don't think people really knew your personality. And so Hannah Hidalgo explodes on the scene, right? I mean, just out of nowhere. Starts the Paris game with 31, ends up being a first team All-American. Tremendous to watch. Incredible.
Right.
And I just felt like I know Liv's personality. I think she's thinking more, I'm going to play with her, not like I need to go somewhere else and be the star. So, and can be multiple stars, by the way. We've seen South Carolina and different programs and what they've done. So just walk me through, Liv, because I know it also, you're human. Like, this was very much your team. Then it becomes Hannah's team because you can't play. What did you make of what Hannah did? And how did you kind of help her? I mean, she was just a freshman, but how was your experience, watching her do all this year?
Yeah. I mean, like, thinks that I'm threatened by her in some way, but I see it as a totally completely opposite reaction just because you go to Notre Dame knowing that you're going to be surrounded by great guards.
Mhm.
And rather as looking at like, oh my gosh, like worried that, she's surpassing me in any way, I was more so worried about how able she was to take over the team and let the team do, what they needed to do. And she did that. It took her a little bit to kind of adjust to everything and kind of find her identity, but she did an incredible job. And I was more so just proud of the way she carried herself throughout the season. And we're in those practices every day. We're in those film sessions, and we're collaborating together. So it's just funny to hear people saying that we're so far apart because we were in those spaces together, practicing together, running fives together, like working out together. And people think that it's just not going to work, but I think it's just because they don't want to see it work. 'Cause it's going to be
That's right.
scary. So just hear it from me now. We have no bad blood. Um, that's my dog. She's gonna amplify you on the court, and I'm excited to just run with her and get in with such a great player.
Okay, and I have to, I'm taking Mac's question here because so I sit around, on the studio. I'm talking with Ivory, legend. I'm talking with Coach, legend. And we're just kind of saying, like, okay, what's it going to look like? We think it's going to work, but what's it going to look like? So
Yeah.
can you give us, you probably can't. I don't, other people might be listening to this, but is there maybe
Just the three of us. What are you talking about? It's just us talking
right?
right
No one's
now.
going to listen. Is it just who get the ball and go? Because you're such a great offensive rebounder. I mean, or defensive rebounder. I've talked about that on our show. Just whoever gets the ball and go. Is it maybe Hannah a little more off ball, or have you not really figured it out yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think Hannah played a lot of off ball this year.
She did.
She's a great combo guard, a great point guard. So, but she committed here knowing that I'd be a true point and be at the one. So, she knew what she was getting into. She's not expecting the ball every play in her hands when we're on the court together, but that doesn't say that I can't play off the ball as well. So we're just gonna bounce off each other. Like, we're great in transition. I just love to get out. Whoever gets the ball first gets the ball first. And even when I was playing without Hannah, Coach Ivey would be like, if Sony gets the ball, you run. Like, if whoever it may be gets the ball, like, they run. So Coach Ivey's not big on that in transition. Like, get it to the one. She's just like, let's get up the floor as fast as we can. And if that's Hannah advancing to me, or if that's me advancing to Hannah, like, it's gonna work out the way it's gonna work out. So yeah, I think I'll run more of a true one in that sense, just because that's what I'm sort of good at, setting people up. And she's more of like a true scorer at her core. But that doesn't say that she won't come up and give me a break sometimes and run the one for me and maybe have a play run for me where I come off a down screen or something. So it's going to be interchangeable and we're going to work really well off of each other. I'm not worried in the slightest.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing, Liv, too, is when, again, people have different angles for different reasons why they say different things, but it just feels to me like it's a pressure reliever. When you have another player
Absolutely.
of that caliber, it's not you. It doesn't have to be you every night. Now, it can be. If it is what it is. And it doesn't have to be her every night, but it can be. I just feel like when you have that, it frees both of y'all up to really take it to another level because of, and you have other great players. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But I think when you have those two suns in a solar system that can just pull anytime that they want to, it's got to be a little fun. So do you feel that? As I guess we'll know more when there's an actual game, but I know you've been practicing with each other.
Yes.
I have to feel like that's a thing.
That's absolutely so true. And I always go back to that because I'm like, I don't know why people don't like playing with other great stars, because you get more opportunity, you get more space to work. And I was talking to Skylar
Right.
about this, and I was like, we were kind of just discussing the new team and stuff, and she was like, you want to play around great players because that takes the attention off of you, and you can
Because they can't double team you both. They can't double team both y'all.
You're gonna have to pick, and then you have Sonia, and then you have Maddie. So it's like you really have to pick your poison with us, and I'm just excited to play with another great guard because, God forbid, I'm in foul trouble or something. Like, you never have to worry, or if she's in foul, you never have to worry. There's no lapses, there's no weaknesses. So it's just exciting to kind of have that option this year and see where that takes us.
100%. That's a great point, Mac. And I love that you were getting some knowledge from Skylar. That's really cool. I mean, Notre Dame is guard you. Like, we know you look at the guards in the W. There's absolutely no doubt about it. You bring up Maddie. I know you and Maddie are really good friends. She just graduated as well, and she's going back for her 5th year. I'm so excited about that because I feel like she and you were, observing from the sidelines and obviously being really close from her. Tell me what you saw, because I feel like kind of when Christmas hit and maybe she realized how to play with Hannah a bit more, that second half of the season, she was phenomenal. Like, what do you expect from her going into her last year?
Yeah, I mean, just being here over the course of her career, like, I've just seen her mindset change, and especially this year, she flipped a switch where it was just like
Yeah.
it was just go mode for her, And I think she had people around her to help her with that. But she transformed into such a brilliant basketball player and leader for our team. Like a lot of people, love to see what she's doing on the court, but the things she was doing for us off the court were incredible. We were going through some things with just, our identity and as all teams do, trying to find ourselves. And Maddie was really the one who kind of brought us together. And I think that in turn helped her to play her game and get more comfortable because she knew everyone better because she brought us together so well. So she's incredible, and her stock has been rising, and rightfully so. She's worked so hard for this point. So I'm excited to see where she ends up.
And it's fun to hear that. It's fun to hear kind of the behind the scenes stuff that none of us would know, not being in a locker room and seeing those things of that nature, which it's great to talk about. Okay. We've talked about you. We've talked about Hannah. We've talked about Sonia and Maddie there, but this team is so loaded. Like, you guys have so much talent, some transferring in, some young freshmen that'll be coming in. Where are we? I mean, what's the expectation this whole off season? Where is your guys, kind of mental on what you can do? What is the expectation of the program this season?
Yeah, I mean, me, Maddie, and Sonia are kind of trying to set the tone. Obviously, the expectation is a national championship, but I think we've discussed. I think that's too overwhelming for people to conceptualize. So, like, taking it day by day and having the national championship as a result of our day by day process is where we're kind of focusing. Just not getting too overwhelmed by the end product, and just taking care of the little things that we have to do. So we always tell the team, just be your best every day, and that's the best you can do. And that's kind of where our mindset is now as we approach into the summer. We have a few more weeks off before we hit the ground running with our new transfers and stuff. So the core group that we have now, we discuss like setting the tone now, so they'll have no choice but to kind of rise to our levels. That's kind of where we're at right now.
And so what does that look like? I mean, is that you dragging people to film, to the court, to extra shots? I mean, because I know it's hard, and I know it's also one of those things where it can just go throughout the team so quickly. Like, because if you set that standard, well, what does that look like from your aspect, from being a veteran now and being a leader?
I mean, I'm fired up. I want to play pickup 4 times a day. But they're like, we just played a whole season. Like, let me relax. Like, I want to give them this time to relax because I'm like, let's play pickup. Let's go lift. Let's go do this. Like, I'm like so fired up because I haven't felt that joy yet of getting back and playing and, being with them on the team. Like, it's just, I'm being hard on them, but I'm giving them some time now. But what that looked like for our spring workouts was just like doing the little things, being on time, meeting together, checking in, how are we doing, wearing the same, it's just something as small as wearing the same things to workouts, like working hard as hard as we can, and things of that nature, just little things that build our habits to when, we're going to actual practices, we can carry them over and then start drill work and attack that with the same mentality.
I like it. Liv, don't forget, this team at one point had 5.5 players, so they're a little tired,
We're a little tired. They did well.
And that's why I just kept waiting. Is Liv? She had a jersey on? But they made the right decision. So speaking of kind of the leadership, and let's talk about Coach Ivey here for a second, who I just think the world of Coach Ivey. Like, what she's done, people forget how hard it is to take over for a legend, to take over for Muffin McGraw, who has her own statue on campus. We've seen at programs like Tennessee, it's just never been the same. We'll see what happens with Stanford. We've seen it at different spots. And at Notre Dame, there really hasn't been a drop-off. And I don't think people talk about that enough with Coach Ivey. But you mentioned that day by day to win a national title. Coach Ivey's won 2 national titles. She knows, or actually, no, sorry. Yeah, 2. That's right. She knows what it takes. So how much are you guys leaning on her when you say that's your goal, but leaning on her for the day by day?
Yeah, I think we lean on her, but not as much as you would think. She's very much a player's coach, and she said that the teams that they have won their championships were player-led. So she kind of guides us, but she lets us figure it out too. She always reiterates that she's been through it, and she's always a resource to kind of guide us and trust in her that the processes that she's putting us through will lead us to that outcome. But she really kind of lets us live and kind of work through our own troubles. But she's always there, and we can always count on her to help us whenever we need to.
I love that.
Before I let KG,
Yeah, I do too. I
Yeah,
do too.
heck yeah.
Before we let KG kind of close with the state of women's basketball right now, I do want to ask, just because you touched on it a little bit with your injury and sitting out last year and learning more and being with the coaches, what did you learn more about Coach Ivey? Because, again, all the things that KG just said, she's such a great leader. Was there anything that maybe you understood better, or little tips and tricks that maybe you grabbed from her that you can take in these, individual moments? What did you learn from her?
I learned that she's the most funny person ever, and that even in the most serious moments, she will always find a way to make you laugh. And I take that really seriously, because I before my injury, I took basketball to heart. I was like, this is life or death. I was like, I can't I can't mess up. I can't. But she always, I guess, during that time of where I was recovering in the season, she always, even in the most serious of games, like, would just take the time to like calm everything down. If that makes sense. She's just so, and I never felt that when I was playing. I'm always so stressed and like, oh my gosh. But really watching her, like, she'll always, no matter what situation we're in, like, always have a joke with me, or always, be lighthearted. And I love that a lot.
Yeah, that's great perspective. I think that's the only perspective you get with age. As Mac and I can talk as old people on this podcast. It's just, yeah, like there's more important things in life than basketball, which maybe pre-injury Olivia, she'd be like, no, what are you talking about? But yeah, I love your perspective. Okay, all right, let's finish with this, because you've been a part of it going into last season, then of course had to sit out, and last season was just an incredible, let's call it an inflection point for women's basketball. We saw 20 million people watch the national title. Unreal. What did you observe? And then where do you think the game can go? Like, how excited are you to be a part of this moment?
First I was sad that I got hurt right when, basketball was kind of taking off. And that tournament was really the tournament.
I know. I said it, Liv. I was like, God, this tournament, what it did, and we didn't even have Olivia Miles in this tournament. That could have taken it to another level.
I was kind of sad at first, but just seeing the platform that we now have makes me more excited.
Yeah.
While I wish I could have been a part of that, I now have access to so many more opportunities. It's just, everything that we've been wanting and asking for. So I'm excited for the way that the game is moving. You already see that the WNBA is granting charter flights, and that's huge, because players have been lobbying and advocating for that for so long. And, we always appreciate those who came before us to set that road. We couldn't have done it if it weren't for them still fighting and advocating for us. But I'm just so excited to get that true pro experience, and not sitting in airports for hours and taking 7 buses to get to your destination. We should be treated like such, because we're doing just as much work. And our game is just as, if not more, entertaining to watch and tune into. So. And I stand on that one. I will stand on that.
I agree.
That's a big one I'll stand on. But
yeah,
I'm just thankful to the pioneers who have, obviously led the game to where it is now, but also in the past who have always fought for where we can, head to.
And I think it's great too. You talk about, being sad you missed it, but the table's set. And guess what?
Yeah.
These people are hungry, because those stars that moved on are leaving a void, but the stars that are right behind them, I think y'all can fill it up and continue to take it to another level. So I am ecstatic as a girl dad. I'm ecstatic as a fan of women's sports, as a fan of basketball, for what's to come. And, stars like yourself and Hannah and all these other great players across the country, I think are going to give us what we all want. And I can't wait. This was fun, Liv.
We now, Matt.
Yeah,
Jeez,
that's right. Let's crank it back up. And Liv's with us. She's ready. She's ready to go. We're grateful for your time. We're grateful for your time. This was so fun.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks again to Olivia Miles for joining us on the podcast today. Really appreciate her time, appreciate her honesty. You can tell, she's graduated from Notre Dame, which is really cool, how much that means to her, and just kind of obviously making the most of her career, using NIL, being a superstar, but also getting that degree from Notre Dame. I think that's really cool. And I think that's something that's going to really help her 20, 30 years down the road. But we have so much coming up on the Graham Lick and Mac Lane podcast. Our summer guest series continues. We've got some really good people left in June. We're going to get back to football next week. And then our July, guys, we have some heavy hitters. So just stay tuned. I mean, these are guys who cover college football, who if you named, besides us, if you named the people that you follow, if you're a college football fan, I think you would probably name all 4 of these guys that are coming up in July. So stay tuned for that. And then coaches interviews after that. We're already getting a lot of those done. It's going to be a great summer here on Gramlich and Mac Lane. But do us a favor, guys, go subscribe. YouTube, we are so close to 5,000 subscribers. Would really appreciate that. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your pods. Follow on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Comment on YouTube. That would be great too. But until next time, we'll see y'all.